This is the AMDM, your quick morning podcast full of Memphis news. I'm Kix Patterson in for Natalie Van Gundy. Today is Thursday, August the 6th. Have you voted today, Shelby County? It's election day. Today is your last chance to help decide our next county mayor, sheriff, and a whole bunch of other county offices. It's also the last day to vote in state and federal primaries ahead of our midterms. The ballot is long, so take some time to figure out your choices and use the Daily Memphian's free voter guide. Today's also the first day of school for students in Arlington, Bartlett, Lakeland, and Millington, which officially means that all Shelby County public schools are back in session. Say goodbye to the Scotty Schefflers and Rory McIlroy of the world because golf's biggest stars won't be playing in Memphis come 2028. The PGA Tour announced on Wednesday that the FedEx St. Jude Championship won't be a part of its new Tour Championship Series. Instead, the tournament is likely getting bumped down to a lesser Challenger Series, which will feature emerging golf talent. Franklin, Tennessee-based WellPath, which provides medical and mental health care in jails across the country, is leaving Shelby County. The company failed to renew its contract and will close operations at 201 Poplar, the Shelby County Correction Center, Jail East, and Juvenile Detention Facility. The company has been the target of many lawsuits across the country, including some for jail deaths and at least one local suit from a former inmate who lost his leg while incarcerated at 201 Poplar. Lucy Elementary School will soon be part of the Millington Municipal School District. Memphis Shelby County Schools closed the elementary school this year, 1 year ahead of schedule, so that Millington would have time to get the building ready to reopen in August 2027. The reason for the MSCS handover? A state law that prohibits one school district from operating within the jurisdiction of another. Have you ever been caught sleeping on the job? I have. I one time overslept and almost missed this report. It probably wasn't very embarrassing for most of you, but it was for Fox 13 Memphis anchor Dominique Dillon. She fell asleep during her morning news broadcast last week, but she had a good excuse though. The new mom was up late with her teething baby, and after the moment went viral, she was invited as a guest on the Today Show. The former Houston's is one step closer to becoming a new restaurant. It's a part of a $22 million mixed-use project. General contractor Grinder Tabor Grinder Incorporated filed a construction permit this week for a new mixed-use retail and restaurant buildings that will expand the site where Houston's was and where First Horizon still stands. Called 5,000 Poplar, the new project will include a new restaurant called The Tradition, office space, shops, and an underground garage and more. And now it's time for our deep dive into one of this week's biggest stories with Mary Casciola, but stick with us after that for more of today's news.
At the very end of July, Memphis Light, Gas and Water confirmed it had been asked to study what would happen if a new user connected to the grid using 27 megawatts, 150 megawatts, or 300 megawatts of electricity. The request came from an investor that owns 575 vacant acres in Pidgeon Industrial Park. We don't know yet what might be looking to locate on the site, but we do know that the same industrial investor owned the land involved in the initial XAI facility. I'm Mary Casciola. Joining us today to talk about this mystery is Sam Hardiman. Sam, thanks for being here.
Hi, Mary.
We're also going to discuss some other recent developments related to SpaceXAI, even though that land is not confirmed to be anything related to XAI. But let's just get into it. So Phoenix Investors is a real estate firm, and they have asked MLG&W to study a few different impacts to the system based on wattage. And the highest is, 300 megawatts, which would be about 10% of MLG&W's summer peak, and more than that of our non-summer peak. So it's pretty sizable in terms of the amount of electricity this project might need. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, to give a little further context for people, 300 megawatts, depending on where you are and your energy needs, that's like it's energy for 1 to 300,000 homes. Yeah. So we have this big system, but there are also a lot of industrial users that use a lot of power. We just think about it in terms of residential homes. This is, essentially adding Collierville, Germantown, and Bartlett together.
That's a lot of power.
That's a lot of power.
That's a lot of power.
Yeah, it's a lot of power. And so that's what I would say I make of it is, well, that's an awfully big thing to be asking MLG&W for.
Okay, how close is it to Colossus, which is also a large power user?
Yes, Colossus, also for context, gets about 300 megawatts from the MLG&W and Tennessee Valley Authority grid today.
Interesting.
And it is, in terms of how far apart, for people who haven't driven Riverport, Paul R. Lauer Road as much as me,
no one has really.
I mean, that's probably true among people who don't drive trucks. So it's probably, I would say, like a half mile to a 3/4 of a mile. Like as you like drive, you're always kind of going really fast on this road. So but it's not far.
Okay,
is what I would say. It's you can walk there.
Okay, so close by.
Close yes.
By. But this particular acreage, 575 acres, it's not owned by SpaceX. We don't know that it has anything to do with SpaceX. So any educated guesses on what this project might be, or any educated guesses on what it definitely you think it's not?
So first, like Phoenix Investors was involved in the original XAI deal. And the reason they were involved in that is they bought this acreage, this 575 acres, and the old Electrolux building, which is what Colossus is. They bought that, I believe, in 2023. I think it was late 2023. And in terms of real estate terms, they bought these things for a song, relatively, like very cheaply. And so that's why they were involved in the original XAI deal. They were XAI's landlord for a period of time, and then they came to a deal where XAI, a subsidiary of it, recently bought, we reported a deal in Memphis, and I think it was like $185 million.
Yes.
They bought the Electrolux building. And so we don't know that has anything to do with XAI. And what I want to point out here is XAI and all of its dealings in Memphis and its construction in Memphis, which is considerable, they need temporary power fast.
Right.
And so that means natural gas turbines. Well, what XAI has not done in almost a year and a half now is operate natural gas turbines without air emissions permits in Memphis, Tennessee. Not almost a year and a half, about a year. They have air emissions permits for the turbines they have still at Colossus, which do exist. But they, the Greater Memphis Chamber at that time, when this was all happening in Memphis and there was uproar about the turbines here, was saying they would never do it again in Shelby County.
Okay.
Would XAI, a year and a half later, all of a sudden pop back up and say, hey, we want to run these turbines in Shelby County that we're already getting sued for very similar things down in South Haven? That doesn't seem like a thing that they would want to do.
Sure.
And so what we can maybe assume here is Phoenix Investors is a real estate firm.
Sure.
They have seen, and I'm just saying this, they have no doubt seen how much appreciation they got for the land that Electrolux was, and how much XAI is able to rent Electrolux out for per month to Anthropic.
Right.
Which is about $1.25 billion a month. And so that's $15 billion a year.
Right.
And so, that is what I'm just posing there, is that you see how a data center can be profitable.
Okay, so let's talk about data centers, because I think we're like zeroing in on data centers. And we...
Again, we do not know.
We don't know. But we love to talk about data centers here. I feel like the Daily Memphian as a whole has been talking about data centers for years.
2 years. Maybe longer.
Even before XAI came, because I feel like Keely Brewer, our Report for America fellow, was here. She was our environmental reporter. And I remember her doing a story where we talked about how TVA was actively marketing Tennessee to data center companies. And then at some point they decided, no, we're going to stop doing that, because they knew they didn't have the capacity they didn't have the power, essentially, that a data center would need. So I feel like we have been talking about data centers forever. We don't love them, but we do like talking about them. I think that's fair to say.
I mean, I neither love nor hate nor feel
you feel
anything
nothing
at all.
about data centers.
I feel nothing, Mary. Nothing.
I'm just talking about talking about them. Anyway, we're moving on that. So I thought it was really interesting. I was hoping you could talk about this a little bit, because on the latest SpaceX earnings call, which was just a few days ago, there was something interesting about how compute capacity is actually measured in the amount of power that a thing takes.
Yes.
Which seems crazy to me.
It is a little crazy, but it is. So if people, to back up and maybe don't understand this, artificial intelligence, Claude, Grok, ChatGPT are all run on largely NVIDIA semiconductors that are stacked all together in these racks, these servers.
Right.
And they're wired together with Ethernet cables, and it's essentially a giant thinking brain is what has been created here. And that requires a tremendous amount of electricity.
Right.
And so what has happened in the industry is you essentially, the amount of chips and servers you have hooked up is measured in the amount of power they consume. And so when we start talking about gigawatts and megawatts of things in the data center industry, we're really talking about just the amount of power the chips are using.
Right.
And that is what Elon Musk said on the SpaceX earnings call. Was kind of an eye-dropping number, where he essentially said that we're going to build maybe up to 20 gigawatts worth of power projects to power our data centers, because the broader Tennessee Valley Authority grid, as you talked about, Mary, they need to vote. The Tennessee Valley Board of Directors needs to vote on every new load greater than 100 megawatts. So it took 2 separate votes of the Tennessee Valley Board of Directors to put XAI on the grid with each of its new substations, those new big pieces of them. And so it's a very long and slow process to get that happening, to get the grid to have capacity. And so what Elon Musk is talking about is essentially building 20 gigawatts of his own power, which is, again, TVA on a hot day like today is around 29 gigawatts itself. And so what we're talking about is the world's richest man saying, yeah, I'm going to build something the size of the utility that I'm kind of a part of.
Right. And to power the new data centers that he is also going to be building.
Which is, he's saying up to 10 gigawatts this time next year of data centers. And again, I said this when I was talking about this in another kind of media appearances, right now, SpaceXAI has about 1.4 gigawatts of data centers in Memphis, Tennessee. 1.4.
1.4.
And all of a sudden, they're talking about getting to 10 by the end of next year. It's taken in 2 years. They came here pretty much March of 24. They started building to today's date. How many months is that? 27 months, roughly, to get to 1.4. This is a very innovative company that does things very fast. But we're talking, that looks like an exponential leap of productivity if you're doing all of it here.
Right.
Or even if you're doing it, say, in other places on Bastrop, Texas, where you own property, it still sounds like very difficult to do.
But Elon Musk is very ambitious in these types of things.
Yes.
Let's talk about something. So you mentioned property in Texas. Obviously, there are SpaceXAI data centers here, but nationally, data centers are getting a lot of pushback. In Texas, for example, there's a freeze on new data centers until the state can do some sort of audit. And that, again, has to do with the electrical load. And then New York has also done a 1-year moratorium on certain types of data centers. Other localities are doing their own things. But where we are right now.
Yes.
And we talk going back to this 575 vacant acres. With the kind of national pushback that we're seeing, even here locally, but we do not have a moratorium on data centers.
No.
So does a data center make sense at that location?
Those 575 acres?
Yes.
I mean, I think I think one of the things people should probably understand, which is very important about how Elon Musk or any company can build a data center here, is if you're an industrial zoning zone, which all of SpaceXAI's property is in Memphis, Tennessee, you can build a data center by right, because the zoning code, the Memphis and Shelby County Unified Development Code, has no language about data centers, period.
Right.
They are not a covered thing.
Right.
There's no regulation of them. And so other places have moved, particularly Nashville, other places have moved to limit these things, to limit the ability to do that by right.
Right.
Memphis and Shelby County have not yet done that. To your point about, so yes, right now you have industrial zoning in Memphis, Tennessee, where you can do this by right. 100% it makes sense, But then back to the logistical problem of powering the thing.
Yes.
Given how long it's going to take to build, and then how long is it going to take to build substations to connect this thing to the grid that may or may not have power for it, because that broader grid needs to ensure the stability of you and me, the resident, before it adds more.
Right.
And so that's a big deal. So it can make sense in the sense of legally, by land use right, you can do this right now. But unless you find a way to power it, i.e. natural gas turbines, some sort of temporary power source on your own,
and then a permanent power source,
that's going to get difficult for you.
Okay.
And that takes a lot. And I just want to mention this to people. One of the things that Elon Musk disclosed yesterday, or SpaceX disclosed in their earnings, was their capital expenditures in their AI segment for 3 months, April, May, and June of 2026, was $15 billion. $15 billion.
That's a lot. I can't comprehend a number that high.
I mean, that's essentially a decade and a half worth of Memphis City budgets.
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it. Well, okay. I don't know what else to say about that.
Sam just cackling over in the corner. Please keep that in.
I'm sure we will. Well, I said I love talking about data centers, and I do. But I do think it's important for people to know, especially as these projects become more controversial, that in a sense, there's not a lot of regulation here. So that is where we are.
Yeah, I mean, there's no regulation here. People can say, like, what can the mayor do? What can the city council do? And, I mean, they could, if they chose, the mayor, the city council, the county commission, to amend the zoning code.
Right.
They could choose to do that. But really, that is the lever available to them at this time, and they haven't used that lever. Because once you have the zoning by right to do something, if you follow the building code, you follow workplace safety codes, right? The regulators, like, it's either the building department or OSHA that are regulating you at that point.
Right.
And that's really what we're talking about, is the free market and private enterprise being able to do what they want. Because by law, they have that ability right now.
Right. Sam, thanks for coming in, talking to us about it.
Thanks, Mary.
Can't wait to see what actually happens at that site. Hope you liked listening to us talk about data centers as much as we liked talking about them. More news is next.
The legal battle between Bellyacre's two ownership groups for control of the brand will continue after an initial court appearance this week. Sophia Surratt of the Daily Memphian says plaintiff Adam Leith and Harold Lee Skiffery's Bellyacre majority brand owner, the defendant, appeared in Shelby County Chancery Court on Tuesday.
The plaintiffs, Adam Leith and his brother, had asked for a temporary restraining order to prevent the defendants, Lee Seifries and his wife, from accessing the various companies' funds and revoking the plaintiffs' franchising rights. Also in the question was the lease right to continue managing Bellyacre's sole remaining location in South Haven. An initial restraining order was issued after arbitration between the two groups failed. After Tuesday's hearing, Chancellor Melanie Taylor Jefferson granted a continuation of the restraining order until August 31st, when the case will continue with additional evidence and witnesses. The new date will also allow the defendant's request for a temporary restraining order to be heard. For the Daily Memphian, I'm Sophia Surratt.
Midtown Investment Team LLC is added to its local holdings by acquiring a pair of century-old apartment buildings. Andy Ashby of the Daily Memphian says the company purchased the properties for $2.6 million.
The apartment property at 23 South McLean Boulevard, called the Knickerbocker, was built in 1915, according to the Shelby County Assessor of Property. It was added to the National Register in 2007. The building at 31 South McLean Boulevard, the McLean House, was built in 1925. Both properties have 16 garden-style apartment units in U-shaped buildings that wrap around courtyards. Josh and Josie Wood, owners of Midtown Investment Team, plan on renovating the exteriors and courtyards, but are still deciding what to do with the interiors. For the Daily Memphian, I'm Andy Ashby.
The Peabody Hotel has announced the launch of a new luxury hotel within a hotel. Noah McLean of the Daily Memphian says the Pembroke Club will be a 33-room boutique hotel focused on highly personalized service, elevated culinary offerings, and in-room amenities.
Located on the Peabody's 12th floor, the Pembroke Club will have its own full-service team, restricted access, and a private dining and lounge area. Rooms, which range from $675 a night for Queen to upward of $750 a night for executive level include dedicated 24/7 concierge service. The Pembroke Club will soft launch on Friday, with most of the offered amenities available. The rest will be added on a rolling basis. The Boutique Hotel's grand opening will be in September, although the exact date has not yet been decided. For the Daily Memphian, I'm Noah McLean.
Mississippi Attorney General Lynn Fitch has formally announced she's running for governor in the 2027 election. Aaron Fleming of the Daily Memphian says Fitch joins two other conservatives vying to be the state's next leader.
Mississippi governor's race will be wide open since incumbent Tate Reeves is term limited and cannot seek re-election. Fitch, a former state treasurer, became the state's first female attorney general when she took office in 2020. If elected, she would be Mississippi's first female governor. For the Daily Memphian, I'm Aaron Fleming.
And that's the AMDM for this Thursday, August the 6th. Listen and subscribe to this podcast anywhere you get your podcast or on the Daily Memphian website. You can also hear us on WYXR 91.7 FM, where our local news stories air every single weekday throughout the day. Don't forget to subscribe to our other weekly podcasts hosted by your favorite reporters, including Sound Bites with Holly Whitfield, The Sidebar with Eric Barnes, and the Daily Memphian Grizzlies podcast with Drew Hill and Chris Harrington. You can also sign up for our breaking news alerts and many other weekly newsletters we offer, like the Early Word you heard at the top of this podcast, by visiting dailymemphian.com/email. Thanks for joining us, and be sure to start your day here again tomorrow.